Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good night whenever you watch this video. So let me introduce myself first. I'm Raissa Salwa Pamuji from 12 Science 3 number absent 33. In this video I wanna explain about narrative text and recount text. And this is my presentation. Keep on watching. So, what is narrative text? The narrative text is a text that tells about something that is fictitious and only in the form of essays from the writer only. The purpose of narrative text. The use of the narrative text itself has several purposes such as entertaining, educating, telling, conveying the author's experience, or as a medium to develop the imagination of the reader. Examples of narrative text such as folklore, fairy tales, or fables that are legendary from all parts of the world. Although the narrative text is generally imaginative, some narrative text is also factual. The next is social function narrative text. Its social function is to tell stories or past events and entertain the readers. The social function of narrative is to amuse, entertain, and to deal with an actual or vicarious experience in different ways. And this is the generic structure of narrative text. The first structure is orientation. The orientation section contains the opening of the story that contains the introduction of characters, introduction to the background time and place of the story. Anyway, this section contains a general part of the story that includes what, who, when, and where the story is told. Second is complication. In this section, the main character starts experiencing conflicts in his life and the main character must resolve the conflicts. The last is resolution. The resolution section is the ending story section. In this section, all the problems must be resolved by the main character. In the resolution section, there is also usually a moral message or moral value or advice that we can take from the story. The moral value in the ending of narrative text is called coda. And then here we go. This is language features of narrative text. In narrative text, it usually uses the past or past forms because this story is a fiction. Tenses can use past perfect, past continuous, past perfect continuous, or it can be past perfect future continuous. All these rules do not have to be used as a reference because tenses refer to the conditions and situations of the sentence. The first is using the verb action in past tense forms. For example, walked, said, wondered, etc. Second is using certain nouns as pronouns for certain people, animals, and objects in the story. For example, the princess, the girl, the queen, the king, etc. The third is using adjectives that form a single noun phrase. For example, the Red Riding Hood, the poisoned apple, etc. The fourth is use time connectives and conjunctions to sort events. For example, before, after, then, next, soon, etc. And the last one is uses adverbs and adverbial phrase to show the location of an incident or event. For example, on the sea, in a mountain, there, happily ever after, etc. There are several kinds of narrative form. These kinds are based on story types. The types of narratives are fable, myths, legend, fairy tales, science fiction story, short stories, parables, novels, horror story, etc. Okay, after talking about the narrative text, this time we will talk about recount text. Recount text is a text which retells events or experience in the past. Its purpose is either to inform or to entertain the readers. There is no complication among the participants, and that differentiates from narrative text. A recount text has an orientation, a series of events in chronological order, personal remarks on the events, and a reorientation that rounds off the sequence of events. Next is social function of recount text is to retell events for the purpose of informing or entertaining. Generic structure of recount text. Recount text also has three structures like this. The first is orientation. It's introducing the participants' place and time. Second is events, describing series of events that happened in the past. Third is reorientation. It is optional, stating personal comment of the writer to the story. And recount text also has language features. The first is introducing personal participant. For example, I, my group, etc. The next is using chronological connection. For example, then, first, etc. And using linking verb. For example, was, were, saw, heard, etc. And it using action verb too. For example, look, go, change, etc. And the last is make sure it using simple past tense. And this is some tips for you when you want to write the recount text. And this is the example of recount text. Okay, that was my presentation. I'm so sorry if there is a wrong word. Hopefully useful, and thank you very much.